The story begins on a quiet night on Earth when the world is asleep and the sky is clear. Above the dark land and silent oceans, millions of stars shine like tiny lamps. But tonight something special is happening. Something no human has ever seen. Something that will change the way people understand the universe. Far above the clouds, a camera floats in the black sky. It records everything with calm eyes, preparing for a journey unlike any other. This is not a story about one person. This is a story about the entire human race. And the camera becomes the eyes of humanity, ready to travel to the farthest place any creature has ever imagined. The narrator's voice begins softly, almost like a whisper in the dark. He explains that the universe is huge, far larger than any person can understand. But for the first time, humanity will travel across it. Not physically, but through vision, imagination, and knowledge. Through the power of science and the curiosity of the human mind. The journey starts here at the place humankind calls home. The camera slowly moves above Earth, showing the planet like a blue jewel. The sunlight touches the oceans gently and white clouds swirl in beautiful patterns. From this height, the world looks peaceful. Borders disappear. Countries melt into one smooth, round shape. There are no cities, no noise, no wars, just one shining planet floating in a sea of darkness. But the narrator explains that Earth is only a tiny part of something much greater. A very small dot in an ocean that seems endless. And humankind is about to leave that dot behind. The camera rises higher. The sound becomes softer, as if the world itself is fading away. The blue sky turns darker and soon space takes over the screen. Stars begin to appear, first only a few, then hundreds, then thousands. The thin line of Earth's atmosphere glows like a soft blue ring, a fragile shell protecting life. The narrator reminds the audience that every human who ever lived, every story ever told, happened down there on that small planet. But now the camera will travel far beyond familiar skies to places where no eyes have seen before. As it moves beyond the International Space Station and the orbit of satellites, Earth becomes smaller. The continents shrink. The oceans blend together. The world that felt so big now looks like a marble, a tiny round stone lost in darkness. But this is only the beginning. The camera continues outward. Soon the moon appears. Its gray, crater-filled surface glows cold and ancient. It has watched Earth for billions of years. It has seen oceans form, creatures crawl on land, and humans look up at its bright face with dreams of touching it. Now the camera passes the moon in seconds, something humans could never do in real life, not yet. Earth and moon both disappear into the distance, becoming only two dots, then one, then nothing. At this moment, the narrator speaks with a calm, deep tone. He explains that space is not empty, far from it. It is filled with invisible particles, radiation, and forces that shape everything. But to human eyes, it looks like endless blackness. The sun appears next, large and powerful. Its surface burns violently with towering flames and swirling storms. It is the heart of the solar system, giving life to Earth and holding all planets in orbit with its enormous gravity. But even the sun, the star that has controlled humanity's fate for millions of years, will soon become small and weak. The camera rushes past Mercury, a scorched world with no air, past Venus covered in thick clouds of poison, past Earth again, now only a memory, past Mars, the red planet where humans dream of living one day. The camera does not stop. It moves faster and faster. Jupiter appears, a giant with colorful storms and a massive red eye. Its moons pass by like frozen worlds. Then comes Saturn with its beautiful rings, perfect and delicate like glass. Uranus and Neptune drift silently far from the warmth of the sun. Then something dramatic happens. The sun begins to shrink rapidly. It becomes a bright point, like a lantern seen from a distant hill. Then even smaller, like a spark floating in the night. Soon the sun looks like just another star among millions. The narrator explains that the camera has now exited the solar system. Ahead lies a region known as interstellar space, a lonely, cold ocean stretching between stars. No planets, no warmth, only silence older than time itself. The camera enters this darkness, and the stars around it begin to change. Some stars grow brighter as the camera gets closer to them, while others fade away into the distance. Every star is a sun with its own planets, its own mysteries, and perhaps its own life. The narrator reminds the audience that humanity once believed Earth was the center of everything. Later, people believed the sun was the center. Then they discovered the galaxy, and then countless galaxies. And now, for the first time, humans understand how unbelievably small they truly are. The camera continues to accelerate. It passes stars at impossible speed. Giant blue suns that burn hotter than anything on Earth. Red dwarfs, small and dim but long-lived. Stars at the edge of explosion, heavy with elements that will one day form planets and life. As the camera speeds on, gravity becomes only a memory. Direction loses meaning. There is no up, no down, only motion through endless space. Soon the Milky Way begins to appear. The Milky Way is not just a cluster of stars. It is a spiral galaxy with over 100 billion suns, all spinning around a massive black hole at the center. From a distance, it looks like a shining whirlpool, quiet and majestic, stretching across tens of thousands of light years. The narrator describes it like a cosmic city, filled with neighborhoods of stars, glowing gas clouds, and dark dust. Every human story, every civilization, and every dream began inside this galaxy. The camera pulls farther back. The Milky Way shrinks slowly. Its long spiral arms twist softly, glowing like silver threads. In a few moments it becomes a small spinning disk, then even smaller, like a pinwheel toy floating in space. Around it, hundreds of other galaxies begin to appear, bright, colorful, and different shapes. Some are spirals like the Milky Way. Others are giant ovals. Some are small and scattered. Together they form the local group, a family of galaxies moving through space like a flock of birds. The narrator explains that galaxies are not spread randomly. They form patterns, large structures made of cosmic filaments and walls, creating a web-like shape across the universe. Between these filaments lie massive empty spaces called voids, darker than anything humanity has ever seen. As the camera moves beyond the local group, the number of galaxies increases. What first looked like a handful of lights now becomes thousands, then millions, then more. They fill every direction, each glowing with the light of billions of stars. The camera moves farther until the Milky Way cannot be seen at all. It is lost among countless others, no more important than a grain of sand on a beach. Then the narrator reveals something that shocks the audience. Everything seen so far, the solar system, the galaxy, the cluster of galaxies, fills only a small part of the observable universe. The visible universe stretches across 63 billion light-years in diameter, a size so large that human minds struggle to understand it. The camera reaches a distance where galaxies begin to form huge cosmic structures. Some look like long glowing threads, others like walls of galaxies stretching across unimaginable distances. The empty voids expand like dark oceans between islands of light. The narrator's voice grows deeper. He explains that humans are not at the center of the universe. They are simply at the center of what they can see. Beyond the observable universe lies something unknown, possibly infinite. But for now, the focus remains on this part of the journey. As the camera crosses these vast regions, light begins to change. It becomes stretched, turning red. This is because the universe is expanding, pulling galaxies farther apart. The farther the camera goes, the older the light becomes. Eventually, the galaxies become faint and blurry. The universe begins to look younger. Stars have not fully formed yet. Space becomes foggy and strange. The narrator pauses, letting the mystery grow. The audience feels the suspense. They know something enormous is coming, something ancient, something that lies at the real edge of human sight. Part 1 ends as the camera continues moving deeper into the past of the universe, leaving behind everything familiar and heading towards something no human has ever witnessed. The journey has just begun. The camera continues its silent flight through the cold darkness of interstellar space. Everything behind it, the sun, the planets, the glowing blue earth, slowly fades away like a dream disappearing after waking up. To anyone watching, it feels as if the universe is opening its arms wider and wider, inviting them deeper into the unknown. The narrator speaks softly, as if he is careful not to disturb the ancient silence around them. He explains that the camera has now traveled farther than any spacecraft humanity has ever launched. It has crossed the boundary where the sun's influence weakens. This region is called the heliopause, the border where solar winds no longer rule. Beyond this border lies something untouched and undisturbed for billions of years. This place is pure interstellar space. The camera drifts forward and the stars around it become sharper, brighter, and more numerous. They no longer look like tiny pinpoints seen from Earth. They are now real suns, huge and powerful, each one different from the next. Some stars glow blue and fierce, burning with energy like cosmic fire. Some shine gold and warm, similar to the sun. Others are red and old, fading slowly after shining for billions of years. But the narrator reminds the audience that between these shining giants lies endless emptiness. The distances between stars are so huge that if the camera were a real ship moving at the speed of light, it would still take years, sometimes centuries, to reach the nearest one. Yet the camera continues without slowing. It approaches a beautiful double star system. Two suns dance around each other in perfect balance, their light mixing and creating long, elegant shadows on nearby planets. One of the planets glows with a mysterious blue atmosphere, and for a moment, viewers wonder if life could exist there. But the camera does not stop. There is no time to explore. The journey must continue outward. The narrator explains that humanity's desire to explore comes from a deep place inside the mind, a curiosity that has existed since ancient people first looked up at the night sky. This journey represents that curiosity, and as the camera moves deeper, the universe begins to reveal secrets that no scientist has ever fully understood. After many star systems pass, the darkness begins to thin. The background light grows brighter, like a fog lifting. Slowly, a glowing shape starts to appear in the distance. At first, it looks like a faint silver cloud. Then it becomes larger, more detailed. Finally, the full shape becomes clear. It is the Milky Way galaxy. The camera has flown far enough that it can now see the galaxy from the outside. It stretches across space like a spinning storm of stars. Its spiral arms curl like gentle waves. Bright clusters of stars shine like jewels, while dark lanes of dust cut through the light like shadows painted by a cosmic artist. The narrator speaks with awe. He explains that every human story, every civilization, every culture, every person was born inside this galaxy. Everything humanity knows has happened inside this one swirling island of stars. But the galaxy is huge, so huge that light itself takes 100,000 years to cross it. The camera moves closer to the Milky Way's edge. It passes through star clusters where thousands of suns are packed together. Some stars are young and bright. Some are surrounded by colorful gas clouds, glowing in pink, blue, and purple. These are the birthplaces of stars, massive nurseries where new suns are born. The narrator explains how stars form. Clouds of gas collapse under their own gravity, heating up and shining brighter as they compress. Some of these young stars have rings of dust around them, places where planets are beginning to form. Somewhere in one of these systems, life might someday awaken. The camera glides past a giant nebula glowing red like a cosmic rose. Its swirling gases create shapes that look almost alive, twisting arms, curved petals, shadows dancing in slow motion. It is beautiful and terrifying at the same time. But as the camera moves farther out, the light from the galaxy changes. It becomes softer as if viewed through a thin mist. The galaxy starts to flatten into a disk, glowing faintly against the black background. Slowly, the Milky Way becomes small. What once filled the entire sky is now just a spinning plate of light drifting in the distance. And then it becomes smaller still. Soon it looks like a small coin, then like a star, then like a tiny speck that could be lost with a blink. The narrator explains that the camera has now moved beyond the Milky Way and entered a region known as the local group, a neighborhood of galaxies connected by gravity. Around the camera, new shining shapes appear. One of them is Andromeda, the Milky Way's sister galaxy. Larger, brighter, and more massive, Andromeda glows with a soft white light. Its spiral arms stretch beautifully, like wings reaching across space. One day, billions of years in the future, Milky Way and Andromeda will collide and merge into a new galaxy. The camera passes by Andromeda without slowing. Other galaxies appear, Triangulum, the Magellanic Clouds, and many dwarf galaxies too small and faint to notice from Earth. Together, these galaxies move like a slow-motion dance, each drifting on its own path, yet all held together by invisible threads of gravity. As the camera moves beyond the local group, the number of galaxies increases dramatically. At first, they appear like isolated islands, then like clusters, then like long glowing rivers of light. The narrator explains that galaxies form huge patterns called superclusters. These superclusters connect like a cosmic map, weaving together into the large-scale structure of the universe. This structure looks like a web, a cosmic web, made of bright filaments of galaxies and dark, empty regions in between. The filaments stretch across unimaginable distances. Some are hundreds of millions of light years long. The camera enters one of these cosmic filaments and galaxies surround it from all sides. The view is breathtaking. Millions of glowing spirals and ellipses float like lanterns in a dark sea. Their light is ancient, traveling across space for billions of years to reach the camera. Each galaxy holds billions of stars. Each star may have planets. Each planet may have moons. Each moon may have secrets. The narrator lets the audience imagine how many possible worlds exist in this view, trillions upon trillions. The camera continues through the filament. Eventually, it approaches a place where galaxies become fewer. The light fades, and a giant region of darkness appears. This is one of the universe's cosmic voids, huge empty spaces where almost nothing exists. These voids are some of the largest known structures in the universe, stretching for hundreds of millions of light years with very few galaxies inside. The camera enters the void. Darkness surrounds it completely. The silence feels even deeper here, as if the universe is holding its breath. For a long stretch, no galaxies appear, no stars, no glowing clusters, only endless pure black. The narrator speaks with a tone of suspense. He explains that these voids are still a mystery to scientists. Why are they so empty? Why do galaxies avoid these places? What forces shape them? No one knows. The camera drifts for what feels like forever. Then faintly a small light appears in the distance. It is a lonely galaxy floating inside the void like a single boat in a vast dark ocean. It shines softly as if calling out to the camera. But as the camera approaches, the galaxy fades quickly behind it. The journey must continue toward the outer regions, where the universe becomes rarer and stranger. Then something begins to change. The galaxies the camera encounters now look different. Their shapes are stretched. Their colors shift toward red. Their light is weaker, older. The narrator explains that this is because of cosmic expansion. The farther a galaxy is, the faster it moves away from us. And the faster it moves away, the redder its light becomes. This effect is called redshift, and it allows scientists to measure the distance and age of galaxies. Soon the galaxies become so faint that they are barely visible. Every few moments one flashes by like a dying ember, then they disappear completely. The camera is now entering a region where light itself struggles to reach, where the universe is so young, so early, that galaxies have not fully formed yet. The narrator lowers his voice, building tension. He explains that the camera is moving backward through time as it moves outward through space. The light it sees comes from earlier and earlier moments of the universe's history. Soon, it will reach a moment so ancient that nothing recognizable remains. The screen grows darker. A faint glowing fog appears around the camera. The fog grows brighter, thicker, like the universe itself is lighting up. Narrator says only one line with deep suspense. What you are about to see is the oldest light in the universe. The glowing fog pulses softly, surrounding the camera like a cosmic cloud of memories. Everything begins to shake. The light intensifies. The universe turns bright white. The screen is black for a long moment, silent, empty, as if the universe itself has paused to breathe. Then slowly the darkness begins to dissolve. A soft, glowing fog spreads across the screen. It does not look like mist found on Earth. It looks ancient, older than stars, older than galaxies, older than everything humans have ever seen. The gentle light fills the view like warm, faded memory. The narrator speaks quietly, almost as if he is entering a sacred place. He explains that the camera has reached the cosmic microwave background, also known as the CMB, the oldest light in the universe. This light was created only 380,000 years after the Big Bang. Compared to the universe's age of billions of years, that is almost the moment of birth. The fog around the camera is not just light. It is a map of the universe's childhood. Small tiny spots glow brighter than others. Some areas are a little darker. These little differences may look simple, but the narrator explains that they hold deep secrets. These temperature differences show how matter first gathered together, forming the seeds of galaxies that would appear billions of years later. Every bright patch represents a future cluster of stars. Every darker patch represents a future cosmic void. This fog is the blueprint of everything that exists. The camera drifts through this ancient light. It is calm, quiet, peaceful, like floating inside the universe's first heartbeat. The narrator explains why this light exists. He tells the audience that in the early universe, everything was so hot and dense that light could not move freely. It bounced around endlessly, trapped inside a glowing soup of particles. Only when the universe expanded and cooled did the first photons break free. These photons have been traveling ever since. Now the camera is touching that light. Light that started its journey nearly 14 billion years ago. The fog becomes thicker. The brightness increases. The camera passes through waves of ancient temperature patterns, each one shaped by forces beyond human understanding. Then something unexpected happens. The fog begins to melt away. The light flickers, fades, and emptiness returns. The narrator's tone becomes lower, deeper. He explains that the camera is now moving beyond the oldest visible light into a region where light cannot travel, a region where no telescope can ever see, a region that lies outside the observable universe. This is the beginning of the unknown. The screen fills with darkness once again, but this darkness feels different, heavier, as if something enormous lies ahead, hidden behind a curtain. The narrator warns the audience that what comes next is not visible even in science. It is the realm of theory, imagination, and models. The camera is now traveling into the early universe, long before stars existed. The darkness soon lights up with tiny flashes, particles colliding, forming, breaking, reforming. These are not atoms yet, not even protons. These are fundamental particles, the smallest building blocks of everything. They appear like streaks of light and sparks of energy. They mix and swirl. Some join together to form quarks. Others form electrons. Some disappear in bursts of energy. The camera moves through this chaotic, glowing storm. There is no up, No down, no shape, no structure, only motion, only heat, only pure, raw creation. The narrator explains that this is the first second after the Big Bang, an age where the universe was a fireball of unimaginable heat and pressure. Time here feels different. Space feels different. The rules of physics humans know today were still forming. Then the camera moves even deeper, pushing toward the earliest fraction of a second. Suddenly, everything becomes smooth and bright. Not like fog, not like stars. More like glowing liquid stretching across the whole screen. The narrator explains that this is the era of inflation, a moment when the universe expanded faster than light, faster than anything humans can imagine. Something the size of an atom stretched to the size of a galaxy almost instantly. The camera moves through this stretching space. Distances grow rapidly. Points of light spread apart. Energy fields ripple like waves on a burning ocean. Everything is fast, too fast for normal senses. Yet the camera moves calmly, recording everything. Then something unbelievable begins to form. Small ripples in the energy field appear, tiny vibrations. They look like soft waves, rising and falling, spreading like circles in water. The narrator reveals that these quantum ripples will one day grow into galaxies, stars, and planets. The entire shape of the universe originates from these small, soft patterns. It is a breathtaking thought. Everything humans know, every world, every sun, every living creature began as a ripple no bigger than an atom. The camera drifts through these waves, watching the universe paint its first design. Then suddenly the brightness disappears again, replaced by a deep black void. The narrator's voice becomes slow, careful. He tells the audience that the camera is now traveling into a time before the universe formed the first atoms. The air feels tense. The silence feels heavier. There is no light here, no particles, only pure energy and expanding space. But the camera keeps going. The darkness becomes darker, deeper than anything seen before. It feels endless, as if the camera is flying through the space before creation. Then a strange sight appears. A thin line of light, just a thread, stretches across the darkness. It twists, vibrates, and loops around itself like a living thing. Then another line appears. Then another. And suddenly the darkness is filled with millions of these glowing threads, all moving in complex patterns. The narrator explains that these are not actual strings but a visual representation of what some scientists believe existed in the earliest universe, vibrating energy strings that create the particles and forces of nature. The camera floats through the glowing sea of strings. Some shine bright, some pulse rapidly, some stretch across long distances. All of them hum with silent energy. It looks beautiful but also unsettling, alien, and familiar. Nothing here resembles the universe humans know. Then the strings begin to vibrate faster. The entire scene trembles. Energy builds like a storm rising inside a silent world. The narrator raises his voice slightly. He explains that this moment might represent the most important point in the history of everything, the moment when the laws of physics began to lock into place. Gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear forces, the rules that shape stars and planets. All of them are being written right here. The strings vibrate harder. The screen glows brighter. The entire space shakes violently like reality itself is unstable. Then a blinding flash, everything goes white. The camera spins, losing focus. Light collapses inward, forming a single shining point. The point grows hotter, brighter, then boom. A silent explosion of pure energy. Colors burst outward, red, blue, gold, violet. Space stretches violently in all directions. This is not the Big Bang. This is something even earlier, something hidden beneath the surface of science. The narrator whispers only one line. We have arrived at the place where time itself begins. The light swirls faster. Space folds like fabric. Strange shapes appear, geometry bending in ways that should not be possible. The camera is entering a region where the universe has no form, where the past and future mix, where reality is still being decided. And then a shadow appears inside the white glow. Something huge, something shapeless, something that does not belong to any known universe. The shadow grows larger, slowly, silently, moving toward the camera from inside the blinding light. Before it becomes clear, before the audience can understand what they are seeing, the screen stays black for several seconds. The silence feels deep, almost too deep, as if the universe itself has stopped moving. Then, slowly, light begins to return. Not normal light, not starlight, not cosmic fog. This light looks different, soft, smooth, almost liquid. It flows across the screen like glowing water. Colors ripple gently, icy blues, deep purples, and shimmering golds. They look peaceful but strange. The narrator speaks carefully, as if choosing each word with great respect. He explains that the camera has crossed a barrier, one that no eye, no telescope, and no instrument has ever crossed. It has moved into a region where the laws of physics are still forming, a place where space and time themselves are not stable. This is the pre-light era, a moment so early that even scientists struggle to imagine what it looked like. The camera drifts forward and the glowing liquid light begins to swirl around it. Waves rise, fall, twist gently in slow motion. The narrator explains that these waves represent energy fields, the invisible forces that shape everything in existence. They are not matter, they are not solid. They are pure potential waiting to become something more. Somewhere in these fields lie the beginnings of gravity, the shape of atoms, the future of galaxies. The camera glides through these fields like a ship moving across a calm, endless sea. But as it moves deeper, the sea begins to change. The calm waves turn sharper. The colors brighten. The energy pulses with more strength. The narrator tells the audience that the camera is approaching a moment when the universe experiences enormous transformation, when simple energy becomes complex structure. Suddenly, sharp lines appear in the glowing waves. They stretch across the scene like bright cracks in glass. These lines pulse in rhythm, like the heartbeat of the forming cosmos. They are symmetry lines, patterns that show how different forces of the universe are separating from each other. Gravity splits away, strong force separates, weak force moves apart, electromagnetism becomes distinct. The camera watches these cosmic lines forming like glowing highways. The narrator explains that these separations changed everything. If they had been slightly different, just slightly, the universe would look nothing like it does today. No stars, no planets, no life. The camera continues following these lines deeper into the strange light ocean. But then something dramatic happens. The lines twist violently. The glowing waves rise like storms. Colors flash intensely: red, blue, gold, green. Energy releases in silent explosions. The universe is experiencing its first phase transitions, moments when everything changes suddenly and dramatically. The camera pushes through this storm. Energy bursts around it. Shapes form and dissolve. The space around it stretches and contracts. The narrator explains that during these transitions, the universe cooled rapidly, allowing the first basic particles to form: quarks, gluons, electrons. These tiny pieces are the seeds of atoms. The camera approaches these particles. They appear like shimmering sparks floating in the glowing ocean. Quarks join together in pairs and triplets, forming protons and neutrons. Tiny electrons swirl nearby, waiting for a chance to attach. The narrator speaks softly, emphasizing that these particles will one day form stars, planets, oceans, forests, animals, civilizations, and dreams. Everything from galaxies to human hearts begins here. The camera moves deeper. The glowing ocean thins. Particles form clusters. The energy becomes calmer. The universe is finally cooling enough to become recognizable. But suddenly, a new structure appears ahead. It looks like a giant glowing wall stretching infinitely across the scene, bright and alive, pulsing with strange symbols and patterns. It does not look natural. It does not look random. It looks almost designed, as if reality is carved into it. The narrator explains that this glowing wall represents something called the cosmic horizon, a limit beyond which nothing can be seen, even in theory. Not because the universe ends there, but because light from that distance has not had enough time to reach any observer. This horizon is the boundary of the observable universe, but the camera does not stop. It moves closer and closer to the glowing wall. Patterns on the surface begin to change. The light on the wall flickers and forms shapes that look almost like maps of something far beyond human understanding. The narrator speaks with suspense. He explains that the camera is about to touch the theoretical edge, the final boundary of what humans can ever observe. Not a physical wall, but a limit created by time and light. The wall grows larger until it fills the entire screen. The patterns glow brighter. Symbols shift, stretch, fold, and unfold. Then the wall becomes transparent. Behind it lies something unexpected. Not darkness, not light, something else entirely. A vast, shimmering void stretches across the screen. It is not empty. It is full of strange waves, patterns that look like shadows of universes overlapping each other. The narrator explains quietly that some scientists believe beyond the cosmic horizon lies a multiverse, a collection of countless universes, each with different laws, different histories, and different possibilities. The camera enters the shimmering void. The waves shift around it. Some are soft and slow. Some ripple fast. Some look like they are turning inside out. The camera drifts forward through this strange, shifting sea. In the distance, something begins to form. At first, it looks like a faint glow, then it becomes brighter, then fuller, then complex. It looks like another universe, a bubble of spacetime floating in the void like a giant glowing sphere. The narrator speaks with awe. He explains that the camera might be witnessing another universe forming, a place separate from our own, unreachable, untouchable but real. The glowing bubble pulses gently like the heartbeat of a newborn world. The camera draws closer, trying to see more. Patterns appear on the surface of the bubble, mountains of energy, rivers of light, storms of plasma, swirls of forming space. It feels alive but mysterious. The narrator warns that the camera is now far beyond known science. Everything seen here is only theory, but it represents humanity's deepest attempts to understand creation. As the camera moves closer to the glowing universe bubble, something unexpected happens. The bubble begins to shake. Its surface ripples violently. Light bursts from cracks forming along its edges. The camera stops as if hesitating, caught between curiosity and danger. The narrator's voice drops to a whisper. He explains that if universes collide, if their boundaries touch, the result can be catastrophic. The glowing bubble cracks louder. Bright lines spread across its surface. Energy floods outward like fire breaking through ice. The camera begins to back away, but it is too late. A massive fracture splits across the bubble, and for a single moment something appears inside the crack, a shape, a structure, a silhouette of something enormous, something that should not exist inside a forming universe. The camera tries to zoom in. The shape becomes clearer. It is not a galaxy, not a star, not a cosmic storm. It looks like an eye. A giant, glowing eye opening slowly inside the collapsing universe bubble. Before the camera can focus, before the narrator can speak, before the audience can understand, the eye turns and looks directly at the camera. The screen stays completely black for several long seconds, as if the universe itself is refusing to show what just happened. The silence feels heavy, almost alive. It is the kind of silence that follows a moment too strange, too powerful, too impossible for the mind to understand. Then, slowly, faint vibrations of light appear again, soft gray waves rising from the darkness like smoke returning after an explosion. The camera begins to stabilize. The image clears. The glowing universe bubble from the last chapter comes back into view, but now it is cracked open like a broken shell. The narrator speaks in a slow, controlled voice, as if he is trying to calm the audience while hiding his own shock. He explains that what the camera saw, what looked like an eye, cannot be understood in normal terms. It was not a creature in the usual sense. It was not a physical being made of atoms. It was something else, something shaped by forces outside our universe, perhaps even beyond time itself. The narrator warns that this chapter will push the limits of imagination. The camera is now deeper than deep, farther than far. Beyond all science, beyond all maps, beyond all known reality. The cracked universe bubble begins to shrink in the distance. Pieces of light fall away like broken shards, but the place where the eye appeared glows brighter and brighter. The narrator explains that when universes collide or interact, massive energy is released. This energy can create strange phenomena, windows between worlds, distortions in spacetime, or brief openings into realms no one understands. The glow intensifies. The camera senses something pulling it forward like an invisible current. The glowing gap widens, revealing a swirling tunnel made of pure light, twisting like a spiral galaxy but moving like a living river. The narrator says that if this is a wormhole, a bridge between universes, then the camera is about to cross into something no human has ever dreamed of. The camera drifts closer, closer, until finally gravity gives up. The camera is sucked inside. The tunnel explodes with color. Rings of blue and gold pulse like the heartbeat of space. Sharp threads of silver twist around the camera. Time seems to stretch and fold. The narrator explains that inside a wormhole, the rules of reality lose meaning. Distances collapse. Past and future blend. Everything known becomes uncertain. Images flash inside the tunnel, galaxies forming and dissolving, stars exploding, strange shapes moving like shadows across invisible worlds. Flashes grow faster like memories from universes the camera never visited. The tunnel begins to shake. A deep hum fills the air. The colors darken. The walls of the tunnel twist sharply. The narrator's voice becomes serious. He says the tunnel is not stable. Something on the other side is resisting the camera's entrance. Then suddenly, the camera is thrown out of the tunnel. It shoots into open space and spins wildly before finally stabilizing. What appears in front of it looks nothing like the universe the camera came from. There are no stars, no galaxies, no cosmic filaments, only one endless smooth landscape of dark blue energy stretching in every direction. The narrator explains with a quiet awe, this is not space as humans understand it. This is an early universe vacuum, a region that never cooled enough to form matter or light. A universe that remained frozen in its childhood. A universe that never grew up. The camera floats through the smooth dark blue expanse. The surface ripples gently, almost like water touched by a soft breeze. Then far in the distance, faint bright shapes appear. At first they look like fireflies, then they become clearer. They are spheres, floating glowing spheres, each one shining with a different color. Some are red, some gold, some blue, some white. They drift slowly through the vacuum, almost like balloons floating in windless air. The narrator explains that these spheres are not suns, not planets, not galaxies. They are potential universes, regions of spacetime that never completed their formation. They exist here like embryos of reality, waiting for a moment that may never come. The camera approaches one of them. The sphere glows softly, its surface covered in swirling patterns that look like the fingerprints of creation. The narrator says that some theories describe this as a multiversal nursery, a place where countless universes begin, but only a few succeed in forming the laws needed to survive. The sphere trembles, the patterns twist, light ripples across its surface. Then a loud, low vibration spreads across the vacuum. The other spheres react. They begin to brighten. Some crack, some burst into waves of color. Some vanish instantly like sparks disappearing in the wind. The narrator explains that something has disturbed this region, something powerful, something ancient. Suddenly the camera senses movement behind it, slow, massive, silent, impossible. It turns. Something enormous stands in the vacuum behind the camera. At first it is only a shadow too large to understand. Then the edges sharpen. The shape is unlike anything in reality. It does not have a body as humans know it. It looks like a gigantic structure of lines, curves, arcs, and glowing symbols, like a living diagram written in the language of the universe itself. It is not a creature. It is not a machine. It is not a spirit. It is something older than all of those, something shaped by the first laws of existence. The narrator speaks with a trembling calm. He says this might be a primordial intelligence, a consciousness that forms naturally when universes twist and overlap. A being not made of matter but made of spacetime itself. The giant structure begins to move, not walking, not floating, but shifting like geometry sliding across invisible rails. Lines on its surface glow brighter. Symbols rearrange themselves. It seems to be studying the camera, examining it, trying to understand what it is. Then the being releases a pulse of light. The entire vacuum ripples. The floating universe spheres shake. Some crack open. Some collapse inward. Some explode in bursts of color. The camera is pushed back by the pulse. Space bends around it. The narrator warns that if the being sends a second pulse, it might erase the camera completely. The giant structure rises higher, glowing brighter. Then it opens what looks like a doorway in its center, a circular opening filled with swirling white light like a portal made of pure energy. The narrator whispers that the being is offering a path, a way out, or maybe a test. The camera drifts toward the doorway, pulled gently by its glow. The vacuum trembles. The universe spheres flicker. The giant being watches silently, waiting to see what the camera will do. The opening grows brighter. Light spills outward. The camera enters the circle. For a moment, everything is peaceful. Then the screen flashes white as if someone has erased the image completely. Shapes appear inside the white light. Not random shapes, but familiar ones. Galaxies, stars, nebulae, the Milky Way, Earth. It looks like the entire observable universe, compressed, floating inside a bubble of light. The narrator speaks with shock. He says the camera might be seeing a map of our universe, a perfect structure held inside this being's portal. The bubble pulses slowly, almost like a breathing heart. Then a crack appears across the bubble, a fine hairline crack spreading slowly, silently. The bubble trembles, light flickers. The crack widens. The narrator's voice becomes urgent. Something is happening, something dangerous. The bubble splits open and a massive wave of blinding energy erupts from inside. It shoots straight toward the camera. The giant being does not move. The wave grows larger, faster, hotter. Before the camera can escape, before the narrator can speak, before the audience can react, the wave of energy hits the camera. The screen explodes into pure white. Everything disappears.